temperancia, and temperance. And all of them have their, you could call them sub-virtues or other virtues categorized under it. With prudence, person who is prudent has that fear of God, has that promptness, has that counsel, makes use of his memory, has intelligence, it's also a virtue, foresight, deliberation, etc. A person who is just will have this love for the law, his strictness, equity, he will practice also correction, and all are also here, okay, in this diagram in Latin, okay? The person who is strong, has fortitude, has courage, will be magnanimous, will be faithful, will be tolerant, and I highlight this is a virtue very important nowadays. Tolerance of evil. There's so much evil that is happening right now, and we will not, or we should not be. We will fight against this distraction of being bothered so much by the existence of evil, even among our loved ones. No? Stabilitas, requies or rest, constancy, etc., etc. All under fortitude. The person who is temperate or moderate will have discretion, discernment, obedience, acquiescence, etc. When a person exercises these human virtues, he could easily acquire as well the gifts of God. Also, from another perspective, receiving the gifts of God, the theological virtues, he can learn in a facilitated manner more easily the virtues or the human virtues of prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. So the spes, hope, fides, faith, and love also have their sub-virtues. It all comes from God, definitely, but with the human correspondence, we could also definitely expand our faith, hope, and love. With faith, there's also religio, practice of religion, our dealings with God, decorum, monditia, etc. With hope, spes, we will have heavenly contemplation, we will have joy, we will have modesty, etc. And with charity, we will have forgiveness, peace, piety as sub-virtues, etc., etc. I just wanted to show you how the medievals have thought of these, the connections of all these dispositions, and how they illustrated it. It's quite interesting shown this way now. Okay. There is a classical concept of virtue. Virtus est is always in the median or in the middle. So with respect to the moral virtues, virtue consists in a mean between a defect and an excess. Definitely, this statement doesn't mean that we have to be mediocre or that we have to be in the middle of two or more vices. Rather, we are called to have that rightness of will, a summit, which is opposed to all the abysms of vices. I will explain further with the next slide. Now, what in medio virtus mean? Okay. This is from Aristotle. As I mentioned earlier, this was assumed by St. Thomas Aquinas in its gist. There are so many feelings or spheres of actions that we could experience. Fear and confidence, for example, pleasure and pain, in relation to getting and spending, in relation to honor and dishonor. These are all spheres of actions or feelings, self-expression, anger, conversation, social conduct, shame, indignation. Okay? And in every feeling or in every sphere of action, there is a reaction. There is something that we do. With fear and confidence, we could be excessively reacting, If we are overconfident, we become rash. And this is a vice. Okay? However, if we react with great deficiency, we will be what you call cowards. We are overcome by fear. We are afraid. We are cowards. Now, when we talk about virtue as the mean or the middle point, we are referring to virtue, the virtuous path, as the virtue of courage. Neither is it rashness, which is vice, a bad habit, nor is it cowardice. It is in the mean, the middle point, because neither is it an excess or deficiency of a correct reaction in a certain feeling or sphere of action. And you can apply it to so many other things. When it comes to honor and dishonor, for example, there is a possible reaction of our own vanity. We want to be honored a lot. We want to be liked, by everybody. There's also the deficiency called shyness, excessive shyness, or pusillanimity, a deficiency of this, meaning dishonor. We feel dishonored so much that it stops us or it holds us to do positive work, or we cannot contribute with that disposition. And there's that mean, the virtuous path called magnanimity. To overcome the dishonor that we have felt, to think of greater things, greater plans, thinking of the others, to transcend from our personal honor to the good of the others. Okay. Anyway, so those are many other, how do you call this, spheres of actions or feelings gathered by Aristotle in his book, The Nicomachean Ethics, which is later on translated and published by J.K. Thompson. Okay, these virtues are very important, and we have to highlight it as well, because aside from starting from grace, it is the raw material for grace, raw material for that would be elevated by grace. The help of God will elevate human nature to participate into his own, the divine nature. That grace that could come from God will elevate the human virtues to the supernatural order. It is the raw material of our sanctity, leading the human person to act according to right reason, illumined by faith. So a person who is virtuous, you could say, on his own, is very close to God already, because he has already the raw material that would be elevated by grace so that he could participate in God's life. Okay, and this is about passions. Passions or emotions, these are emojis, or feelings, which I mentioned earlier in this slide, can cause a sphere of action, and this feeling can cause a reaction to each of us. They are movements of our appetites, our sensitive appetite, inclining us to act or not to regarding something we feel, we imagine to be good or evil. In themselves, the Catechism is very clear on this, they are neither good nor evil. They are morally good when they contribute to a good action, and they are otherwise, they're evil in the opposite case. For example, attraction or love, which is the most basic passion. A person who is attracted to somebody, hypothetically, who is already married, okay, that attraction is good or bad, is sinful for that person already, or not yet. So this teaching of the Catechism is telling us, not yet. The passion, this is what you call also, in the context of love, the eros, especially for the romantic one. is something very natural. There are things that just makes a person attracted to another. That in itself is not yet sin. This passion can be very even leading him to the good if he fights against it and he doesn't do anything about it. He contradicts it in his own heart, solves it, that this person is dedicated already to another, is a spouse of another, and definitely is not mine. And so in that struggle, the struggle with a passion that he considers not leading him to the good, he arrives at a greater level or degree of holiness, more heroic. If, for example, however, the passion is regarded attraction to a wife, a husband's attraction to a wife, that one is already leading him to the good because he has to love her. He is attracted to her physically and everything. It has to lead the husband, to love her more. Okay? And it helps towards a good action. That passion is good. Human perfection requires having one's passions regulated by reason. We have to be in dominion, in control of this, through our reason, through the will, and also, we will never miss this, through grace, okay, through the help of God. Okay, today is February 19, and this is the last slide so that we can interact a bit. I would want to quote something related to virtue by Blessed Alvaro. On February 19, when Blessed Alvaro was alive, was actually the Saint's Day of his. Saint's Day, it's a custom in Spain. No? They are named after another saint. There's a Beato Alvaro de Cordova, whose Saint's Day is today. But he also has arrived in the same status of being beatified as well, Blessed Alvaro. So his Saint's Day is now May 12th. He said in one letter in 1978, "Allow me in the name of God, in the name of Saint Jose Maria, in the name of the souls who need us, to ask you these questions, adding the holy refrain which our founder used, my children, more, in terms of struggle and virtues. In your examination, try to draw out the sorrow of love and concrete resolutions. Consider your responsibility because people expect us, or children of God, to give the aroma of Christ, which firmly based on our temperance, awakens them and draws them onward. Let us try to do everything with moderation. The virtue that will be elevated already to the divine, because that's what temperance is all about. It is a cardinal virtue, cardo, meaning hinge or pivot, a firm point of support. And in the firmness of that cardinal virtue, not only do we help ourselves, Blessed Alvaro is saying this, your friends will also be supported. Your friends will find support, almost without realizing it. And you in practice will give spiritual guidance to many people who don't even know what spiritual direction is, and who perhaps would never want it. Through virtue, we have a material for our personal holiness and the holiness of others." Wow, that was a long monologue. Are you there?
Father, thank you. We're still here. Okay, so
Yes, there are 52 in the room. Hello.
sorry. Okay, good now. Okay, so we all know that of the three theological virtues, the most important one would be charity or love.
Yes.
However, for the cardinal virtues, is there a cardinal virtue which is considered the most important amongst the four?
Yes. Several moralists consider prudence as the most important because it leads the person to really do what he is supposed to do. Without prudence, according to them, many other virtues cannot be learned. No, meaning how can a person be strong if he is not prudent in his actions? His actions are not timely. How could he know that this already, for example, a difficulty that he is confronting that he has to conquer? So many have mentioned that prudence, because of this, the intellectual virtue directing all the others is the most important. By the way, I classified them under the classical because it's also in the catechism: prudence, justice, virtue, temperance. But there are many others who have different ways of viewing it. They others have, for example, included penance as a separate virtue, and I think the church also allows that. There is great freedom in this knowledge of the virtues. And the important thing is we understand that these virtues are so important for us. We need to have good habits, struggle to acquire them because they will lead us to a life in Christ. In terms of classification, categorization, even the feelings. There are many schools of thought regarding this. That is secondary. It's different from the most important point that the church wanted to, that we have to learn in our faith.